Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals for Wednesday, February the 17th, 2021. I have an announcement to make pursuant to the Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions in the open meeting law GLC 30AS18 and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations to the number of people that may gather in one place, as well as Mayor Curtatoni's declaration of emergency dated March 15th, 2020. This meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals will be conducted via remote participation. We will have an audio recording available upon request as soon as possible after the meeting. I say in the back of my mind, I hope I said Wednesday, February 17th, 2021. I'd also, at this moment before we get started, we're going to go right to a public hearing of a continuance, but I'd like to just mention that Danielle Evans is out tonight, the passing of her mom, and we extend our condolences to her. Okay, so without further ado, Josh Safdie's filling in tonight for our clerk. Would you please go to the agenda and give us the first motion?
Thanks, Madam Chair. There's only one case on the agenda tonight, as you mentioned. It's DRA number 2020-0334, 15 McGrath Highway. This was continued from our February 3rd meeting, and they're requesting a continuance to March 3rd, 2021. I make a motion that we grant that request.
Second.
Thank you, Matt. Seconded by Elaine Severino. All in favor in the matter of 15 McGrath Highway, DRA 2020-0334, approving the continuance till March 3rd, 2021. Please say aye, and we'll go around. Mr. Safdie?
Aye.
Mrs. Severino?
Aye.
Mrs. Brockelman?
Aye.
And Catherine Garavaglia. Thank you. And I, Susan Fontana, will say aye as well. Thank you. The business on the agenda tonight is that is it for cases. We're going to go to other businesses on the agenda. Anybody looking? It's a board meeting training. It's something we all thought would be great at the beginning of the year. So tonight we're going to cover some of the open meeting and Robert's rules. We are not adjourning the meeting. We're leaving it open for the public. And I think Ms. Charlotte, our liaison, has something to address that. Charlotte, do you have something you want to say to the public?
So this is Charlotte speaking. Members of the public are welcome to, of course, stay and listen, but this is primarily a discussion between staff and the board. So there will not, unless the chair wishes otherwise, there will not be an opportunity for comment on this portion of the meeting. That being said, I'm going to, start sharing my, great. I'm glad that worked. I'm always nervous with technology. I will share the presentation, and Planning Director Sarah Lewis is here to give the presentation. So I'll be in the background taking notes and moving slides along.
Thank you very much. Hello there, Ms. Lewis.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
So apparently, GoTo thinks my first name is work. Nice. So given that this is the beginning of the year and a conversation that Susan and I had had a couple of weeks ago, we decided that it was probably a good time to, with new processes and new ordinance in place, just to do a refresher course on the operations of the board. Charlotte, are you going to click through for me? Okay, that'd be awesome. Thank you. Next. So a lot of it obviously is going to sound like old hat, but there are some things that we need to make sure that we do incorporate into, sort of the beginning of the meeting. Obviously, one of those things is, as we're remote, is the state of emergency that we're still operating under. Talk about the agenda, talk about the different pieces of the public hearings, and then, sort of some additional items while we're still virtual as we process cases. So next. So obviously this was just done, the formal announcement and the why the meeting is virtual. So I think Susan has this down packed, but should somebody else need to perform the role, then we also have the idea of, because we're remote, of noting the board members and the staff in attendance is also good policy, just in case there are people listening on the phone that don't necessarily have the video and the option of seeing names on the screen. So next one, Charlotte. So the items that will not be heard due to continuances, Susan, you also do this right up front. So if people are here and they, sort of have not had an opportunity to review the agenda ahead of time, they immediately know whether the case that they're interested in is being continued. And so that gives them an opportunity to go and do something more interesting than their evening than listening to us opine on the intricacies of zoning. The order of the agenda is also, sort of worth going over. Again, a lot of it for people who might be listening in. So next one. This may seem obvious, but the one thing I want to emphasize is that after an applicant gives a presentation, when there is board discussion, it is obviously easy enough for us as staff to recognize your voices, and hopefully the public does too. But given that a lot of times the applicants have large teams, we need to encourage the applicants to actually state their name for the record as to who's speaking each time, because multiple people obviously on a team speak at once, and especially when there are questions being answered, we need to be very clear as to who's asking which question. Staff comments, staff does try to remember, as we all do, to introduce themselves, repeat their name each time staff speaks, as opposed to the board members. And then I know Susan is always respectful of elected officials if they wish to speak, and knowing that time restrictions are often they're juggling multiple meetings. So being respectful of giving them the option of choosing when they want to speak is very good policy that we just need to continue. So next one. Some of the things that we need to make sure that we do in the public testimony period is also to acknowledge if any written comments were received prior to the meeting. And the idea of when a formal public hearing and the public comment portion is closed, whether it is closed for verbal testimony that evening, or whether it is also closed for written testimony into the future. So if there is a case that you want to continue, you can leave the written testimony portion open, but just close the verbal testimony portion for that evening. So you have that as an option to make sure you do get all the continued input. A lot of times, if we receive new information from an applicant, then very often it makes sense to reopen the verbal testimony also at the next hearing to comment on whatever new information has been shared. I feel like I'm talking a lot. Do we have any questions so far?
No, I think I comment on just a couple of things. I think it seems almost repetitive, but because of the virtual meetings, you're bringing up a great point that people don't see us, nor do we see them. And that's the one void I find in this whole process. I really miss that. So I think it's great that we do say our names as we speak up for everybody to hear. Also about this public part now. So when we feel that we've really heard what the public has to say, and I say I'm going to close the public portion of this meeting, do I say at that time, but we'll leave we'll continue if anybody has any correspondence or emails they want to send us? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, if you don't intend to take a vote that evening, if you feel
Right.
like you've heard everything because you got the comments, then you close the public portion both verbally and written. And so then you can take a vote.
Okay.
I think there needs to be, if you're going to ask an applicant for more information, or you think there are others who might want to speak on it and you're continuing it to the next meeting, then you
Mhm.
have the option of leaving the written testimony open.
Okay. Thank you.
Of
Anybody
course.
else have something for Sarah? No
I'm
hands?
not done yet. I just thought I'd give you a
Go
break.
ahead. No, I understand, but I'm looking, I just want to make sure that what we've covered, they just don't want to comment. Thank you, Sarah.
Okay. All right, next one, Charlotte. Whether it's sometimes worth, and you do this, but sort of reminding applicants that, sorry, not applicants, regarding the public, that this is not a discussion with the public. This is an opportunity for the discussion to happen amongst the board members. There may be specific questions that are asked of the applicant or asked of staff. But part of that discussion does not happen with the general public once that portion of the verbal testimony is closed. What we do now with the under the new ordinance, with the writing of the staff reports and the decisions, we as staff need to make sure that your discussion includes each finding that has to be made on a particular item within the ordinance. Those are in the staff report as to the findings that must be made, but in order to write up the decision, we need to hear what your discussion on those points are. Charlotte, do we have an example?
I don't have an example pulled up, but I can very quickly pull up the like list of findings, just the list of findings that will be in each staff report, depending on the type of permit that's being requested. So for hardship variances, all three of the hardship variance criteria will be in their own section laid out. So you'll have one page that you can look at that identifies, here are the 3 things we need to talk about for this hardship variance, or the 4 things we need to talk about for this backyard cottage site plan approval. And that'll vary. We don't have any good examples yet. All of them are still works in progress, but will come to the board soon.
All right, so I think once we get into this, it'll make it a bit simpler. So let's use, because we are all familiar with the hardship variance, let's use that one as an example. So we know there are 3 specific criteria. So can you go to the next slide, Charlotte? So the idea is that each finding, you need to make a motion for each review criteria. So each finding element, there needs to be I make a motion that this project helps to implement the comprehensive plan and other policy plans. Then there'll be a second, and then any discussion. Then if there needs to be sort of a tweaking or a condition added to that, then sort of talk about the language of the condition that's recommended. And that might be, sort of obviously as staff, we often can recommend those. We've been working with you for a while. And so we'll, sort of often make recommendations to the conditions, but you have free, you are the special permit granting authority. So if there are additional conditions that you as board members see as necessary, then you can add those to each of these findings as appropriate. And then make a motion to vote on the proposal. And like every other votes where we have to do the roll call vote because of the remote situation. I'm going to recommend that while it feels a little bit cumbersome, but that each should be voted on independently. So for example, for the 3 criteria of a hardship variance, you motion and make findings and then vote on each of those independently. Does that make sense? Because there might be specific conditions attached to each one.
We've not done that in the past. Was there a problem with that it was not?
No, because keep in mind, we were under a different ordinance.
Yeah.
And so the new ordinance, when we adopted the ordinance, we also adopted an entirely new process.
Okay.
And so that's what we're adapting to at this point in time. And so it's refining and being a little bit different. And the way we talk about it internally in our staff meetings, it's sort of more operating like a court. So it's a bit more formal, but it's making sure that we're doing everything as we should, and there's the proper attention paid to each finding that is required.
Great. Thank you.
All right, next one. So, and some of these I've already mentioned, sort of the idea of all votes need to be roll call votes, which you have already been doing. The thing that we need to be more sensitive to, and unfortunately staff struggles with this as well, as we all have technological hiccups along the way. If a board member does disconnect, especially in situations where there is discussion taking place, then the proceedings pause until that board member can reconnect in order to be able to vote on it. And this is the reason that we bring this up, is obviously in issues of quorum, this would be absolutely critical.
Susan, sorry to interrupt.
Go on.
Does this mean
Go on.
like when my 5-year-old comes charging in and I turn off my camera? Or do you mean like if we're accidentally dropped from the call?
if you're accidentally dropped from the call. So because if you're still, yes, if you're still hearing and you're still, sort of mostly present as much as you can be with a 5-year-old as a distraction, then yeah, it's more about, sort of losing connection and not being able to hear or comment.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Elaine Severino has a
Elaine.
question.
yes.
I think it might have pertained to just a few bits ago when you stated that we need to say our name. If we're having a discussion about a case and then we get and have a comment to make, I know the public doesn't see us. We can raise our hand. Susan can see our hand. After Susan recognizes a member, she usually says, well, Elaine Severino would like to say something. So when I start to speak, do I need to then again repeat my name as the speaker?
No, I do not believe so. I believe as long as you are identified, and to be honest with you, for most people that are involved in these meetings, sort of they probably recognize each of your voices anyway. So it's more about, there's a lot of times that we don't always see the applicants. And there might be, we don't know who's talking on that end. So for keeping track, for record keeping, for the minutes, making sure that we're diligent about asking the applicant team who is talking is more important than the board members, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
So, all right, is there anything else that, any other questions or?
No. Everybody good? Thank you. You
Well,
may continue.
hopefully that was helpful.
That's it? That's it?
That's it.
We didn't have to take a recess or anything?
No, I mean, I can do a song and dance, or I can show you the video of birthday flowers. I mean, but that was,
No.
yeah, that was my little lecture.
You know what
Is the quiz open book?
Josh, what is it? You want to have an open book
Is
test?
the quiz open book?
Yeah, it better
Oh, yes.
be.
No, but actually, it actually would be helpful to have that deck as a PDF.
We will share it most
That's what
definitely.
I'd
Okay.
like.
We'll send
Yeah.
this around. I think we also have an internal cheat sheet that this was developed off of, that I think we can modify and send around as well. That has other examples of, if you're trying to do X, or if you're trying to make a motion for X, here are a few different ways that you can phrase it. Because I know when I am trying to think of how a motion should be worded, it's always nice to have
Something.
an example to work from.
Sure. I think this presentation was, what I liked about it is I've been on the board for a while, and over the years we've become very casual. I feel almost sometimes between us boys and girls a little too casual. I like the formality of it. I love calling something to order. I like everybody identifying themselves, and if not, that I do it. Like you said, it's just a courtesy to everybody. Or the, some of the way we did things before would say, if Josh wanted to say something through the chair, Madam Chair, through you, and ask the question, and he'd say, that's when he'd say, Josh Safety, Madam Chair, through you, so we get everybody on the page of who's speaking. I know we're taking videos of this is good, but sometimes we're at our meetings, we go back live, there's, not the cameras and stuff there, and it's all, audio, and the new gal. It's a Deanna? Is it Deanne?
Dina,
Yeah,
our
Dina.
admin, yes.
Yeah. So she's a new kid on the block, so it's harder for her right now, learning under these conditions as well. So this reminds you a little bit, a class like this, for some of us who've been around a while, of what we've almost forgotten and what we've just not been doing. So I like it, and I'd be interested in more stuff like this coming down. Or if ever you have stuff you come across, zap it to any of us, if somebody wants something special, but I'd like it all for us to look at and read and, just kind of buff us up a little bit. I think it's a good thing. And like you brought up the points, like some of the things like how they'd run in a court, because this is all intents and purposes is like that. This is important stuff. A lot of money, a lot of privilege, a lot of things on hand. We have a lot of responsibility. And I think things like this let us really, not that we have not in the past, because I think we've always had a very serious, responsible
yeah.
board, very much so. And I think, we like to keep everything in line, but, we want to be happy too with the process, So thank you very much for putting this together. You and Charlotte and whoever chimed in, thank you very much. We appreciate it, I'm sure. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say? No? Ann's quiet and Catherine is. That's it? Well, then thank you. Then should you guys have anything else to say to us? Sarah? You have anything else?
No, thank you for listening, and we will definitely share it with you. So this is,
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
as Charlotte said, the cheat sheets are extremely helpful. So
All right. Charlotte?
and when I have to do the role of chairing the Urban Design
Yeah.
Commission, you won't believe the cheat sheets I have.
We're gonna have to come by and spy on you sometime. Charlotte, do you have anything you'd like to say in closing before we adjourn?
I would just say if any questions or any of you have a desire to hear something like this in the future, just let us know and we are more than happy to do whatever equivalent version of this for whatever topic you guys want to hear about. Just give us some advance warning so that we can prep and get it on the agenda. But we're happy to do anything that helps all of us run more efficiently and get the process that we want.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. So without further ado, I'd like to ask the clerk to please make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Oh, sorry, I never know whether I'm muted on my phone when I'm calling in or on the computer. But either way, I'm not muted now. So but I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Elaine Severino. On the roll call, all in favor, Josh Safdie,
Aye.
Elaine Severino,
Aye.
Ann Brockelman, Catherine Garavaglia,
Hi.
and Susan Fontano, aye. Let the record show it was a unanimous to adjourn the meeting tonight. And it is 6:29. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.